In my family, I have always been the practical one, whilst my elder brother Bart pursued his dreams of becoming a flourishing businessman. Meanwhile, I concentrated on steadily climbing the corporate ladder. Eventually, my perseverance paid off when I secured a position at Crawford and Associates, with a salary that rendered my previous earnings negligible. The drawback, however, was the excruciating 2-hour commute each way, consuming 4 hours daily for travel. After enduring this ordeal for a fortnight, I realized I had to find closer accommodation to the office. On Saturday, I visited my parents' house for our customary family dinner. Mom was in the kitchen cooking up something delightful, while Dad sat in his favorite chair with his newspaper. It was reminiscent of the countless Saturday dinners we'd had since my childhood. "How's the new job going, honey?" Mom inquired as she set a steaming casserole on the table. "Actually, really good," I replied while helping her with the plates. "The only downside is the commute, so I'm searching for a place to rent nearer to work." At this, I noticed my parents exchanging one of the knowing glances they had perfected over 3 decades of marriage. Mom wiped her hands on her apron and joined us. "You know, Amber," she began, "we might have a solution. Remember Grandma Helen's old apartment that I inherited? The tenants just moved out last week. And it's merely a 5-minute walk from your office." I almost dropped my fork in surprise. I certainly remembered that apartment, having spent countless weekends there as a child when Grandma Helen was still alive. It was a charming 2-bedroom flat in a tranquil neighborhood, with expansive windows and a small balcony where Grandma cultivated her favorite petunias. Trying not to appear too enthusiastic, I asked about the rent. When Mom mentioned the figure, my eyes widened. It was about 1.5 times less than the average market rate for that area. "We give you a family discount, of course," she added with a grin. "I'll take it," I said without hesitation, making no attempt to haggle. The location was ideal, and the price was too good to pass up. "That's settled then," Dad remarked, finally looking up from his paper. "Have you heard about Bart's recent success? He just signed 3 new corporate clients for his courier service. He's really making strides in the delivery industry." Just like that. The walls were draped in old-fashioned wallpaper peeling at the edges. Mysterious stains adorned the ceiling. And the only piece of furniture was an ancient sofa that appeared to have withstood multiple eras. That evening, I called Mom, sitting cross-legged on that old sofa, the sole furniture in the apartment. "Hey, Mom, do you mind if I do some renovations?" I asked. Her reply came as she was probably watching one of her cooking shows. "Oh, sure, honey. Just don't make it too bright. You know I'm not a fan of those trendy neon colors everyone's using." I chuckled. "Mom, have you ever seen me in anything brighter than navy blue? I'm thinking more along the lines of earth tones and neutrals." That night, I dove into the internet, scouring interior design websites and Pinterest boards. This achievement was mine. When Mom visited to see the final result, I was anxious. She moved slowly through each room, her hand trailing along the new kitchen countertops. "I have some exciting news. I got a promotion at work." But Mom barely looked up from her plate. "That's nice, dear," she responded before turning to Dad and whispering, setting his plate aside, "We've decided to take out a loan." I nearly choked on my water. Take out a loan? Look, maybe this is an opportunity. If he can't compete with a larger company, perhaps it's time to consider something new. Starting over might be better than chasing losses. The silence that ensued was palpable. Mom and Dad exchanged one of their looks. Not the affectionate kind, but the kind that signaled disappointment. "You don't understand business, Amber," Dad finally said, his tone steely. "You've always played it safe with your office jobs. Your brother is an entrepreneur. He takes risks." "Family always supports family," Mom added firmly. "That's just what we do." I opened my mouth to protest, but knew it was pointless. Their minds were already set. I could have claimed I'd discovered a cure for cancer, and they'd still be more preoccupied with Bart's delivery issues. The next 6 months passed like watching a car crash in slow motion. Mom would call occasionally to update me on the situation, though I never asked. The loan they took out bought Bart new vans and helped cut his prices, but it wasn't sufficient. The competitor continued to expand, snag clients, and push their flashy app and next-day delivery promises. Then came the inevitable call. "Your brother's company went bankrupt," Mom said, her voice strained with emotion. "He and Sarah are staying with us temporarily, just until they get back on their feet." I tightened my grip on the phone, recalling my silent prediction from that dinner 6 months prior. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, because what else could I say? "Told you so." "They're using your old room," Mom continued. "Sarah's taking it pretty hard. You know how she is about appearances." Yes, I knew. Sarah had always looked down on my plain office job, preferring to boast at family gatherings about being married to a CEO. I wondered how she was coping with living with her in-laws. That weekend, I drove to my parents' house, telling myself it was just another family dinner. Yet as I entered, the tension inside was palpable, almost tangible. Bart was sprawled on the living room couch, eyes on his phone, barely acknowledging my presence with a vague grunt that might have been a hey. Sarah sat perched on the armchair like she was sitting on a throne, her designer handbag neatly arranged at her feet. She delivered one of her signature gazes, the type that suggested I was something unpleasant stuck to her shoe. "Dinner's ready," Mom called, and we all assembled around the table. I should have anticipated that dining in peace was an unrealistic expectation. Before I even had a chance to use my fork, Bart was already diving into a lengthy speech, one that felt meticulously rehearsed, centered around his business predicaments. He kept insisting that everything was under control and went on elaborating how his enterprise was growing and expanding. However, corporate vultures with their advanced technology and vast capital had muscled in. Sarah chimed in, maneuvering her food around her plate, remarking on how these large corporations could easily invest millions into their marketing campaigns. "How can a small business compete with that?" she questioned. Bart, clearly agitated, struck the table with his hand, causing the glasses to clatter. "They're just bullies backed by bigger budgets. I determine who lives here. After all the effort I've invested here," I gestured at the painted walls, the refined floors, all the labor I dedicated to transforming this apartment. "Yes," Mom replied, her grin turning calculating. "In truth, you've enhanced the apartment's market value considerably. If you wish to stay, the new rent will be thrice what you're currently paying." I locked the door, slipped the keys in an envelope, and left them under my parents' door before heading to my new apartment. That night, I arranged my new place until everything felt just right. Focusing instead on settling into my new life, I devoted the following month to arranging furniture, decorating, and building my new home. Although I went without contact from my family, it wasn't entirely out of mind. Occasionally, I'd wonder if they furnished the apartment or if Mom still made her famous lasagna for Sunday dinners, but I intentionally pushed those thoughts away. The decision had been made by the time they showed up, exactly a month after I moved out. My phone rang, displaying Mom's number. I hesitated to answer, but curiosity, mixed with a bit of hope, made me pick it up. Without any introduction, she launched into it. The payment hadn't come through. Her tone was accusing. I couldn't help but laugh. "Of course." "Excuse me? Things are tough right now, Amber," she explained. "We're still paying off the loan for Bart's business, and he can't manage the rent. The family needs your support. Let me get this straight." I replied slowly, clutching my phone tightly. "You kick me out so Bart and Sarah can move in, and now you want me to pay the rent for an apartment I don't live in so they can live there for free?" "Family helps family," Mom said as if it justified everything. "You know about the loan burdens and Bart's struggle to get back on his feet." That phrase. How I'd heard it endlessly whenever they needed something from me, but never once when I was in need. Something snapped inside. "Really, is that what family does?" I asked, my voice surprisingly even. "Does family throw one child out to make room for another, then demand they continue paying for a place they no longer inhabit?" "You're being dramatic." "No, Mom, I'm being realistic for the first time. Particularly through my cousin Rachel, who had always been kind to me, I picked up snippets of their lives. Bart had allegedly come up with a new brilliant business idea. Something about artisanal pet food delivery, or perhaps organic food subscription boxes. Rachel wasn't certain. My parents made their rounds seeking funds from relatives. Most wisely declined. Only Uncle Derek, infamous for charging high interest rates, offered aid. Even my parents weren't desperate enough to accept his terms. The last update was that they might consider another loan for Bart's new venture. Rachel shared this over coffee one Saturday, gauging my reaction. "What do you think about that?" she asked. I stirred my latte, pondering. 6 months ago, I would have been worried sick. 3 months ago, angry. Now, not my circus, not my monkeys, I replied, surprised to find I truly meant it. Rachel smiled. "You seem different," she observed, happier. I thought about my new apartment, decorated just how I liked. My recent promotion, at work I'd celebrated with my colleagues instead of family. And the cooking classes I started attending on weekends, something I'd always wanted to do, but hadn't due to the renovations at the old place. I confirmed I really am. That evening,